And we are now live, Sean.
Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome members and staff and applicants and their agents to this Township of Clearview Committee of Adjustment meeting for Wednesday, February the 9th. It's now 7 o'clock. Before we begin our meeting, I'd like to recognize the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people of Canada as traditional stewards and caretakers of the land. We acknowledge that Clearview Township is located within the boundaries of Treaty 18, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Teonatahi, the Wendat, and is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples as part of an intricate nationhood that reaches across Turtle Island. At this time of truth and reconciliation, we welcome the opportunity to work together towards new understandings and new relationships and ask for guidance in all we do. I see that we have a full quorum of members. Thank you for joining us, members. The minutes of the Committee of Adjustment meeting held on January 19th have been circulated for adoption. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'd ask for a motion to accept the minutes as circulated by Chuck and Barry. All in favor? That is carried. I'd ask members of committee if anyone has a pecuniary interest to please disclose that now. Seeing none. We have 3 applications this evening. Our first application is application file 21A23, property located at 1 Buckingham Boulevard in Clearview. And I'm going to ask the secretary to please read the notice as well as any correspondence and recommendations provided.
Thank you, Chair. The subject application concerns lands municipally known as 1 Buckingham Boulevard. The purpose of the application is to request the approval of the Committee of Adjustment for relief from the following: maximum height of accessory buildings requirement of 6 meters to 6.75 meters, and the maximum gross floor area of all accessory buildings combined requirement of 64 square meters to 90.7 square meters. The effect of the application is to permit the enlargement of a detached garage on the subject lands. We did not receive any comments on the application. We do have a recommendation from the Planning Department. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Clearview hereby approves minor variance 21A23 pertaining to lands located at 1 Buckingham Boulevard, Clearview, and legally described as Concession 12, Part Lot 42, Plan M137, Part Lot 10, Reference Plan 51R22371, Parts 2 and 3, on the basis that it meets the 4 tests in accordance with the Planning Act. And that is all I have.
Thank you very much. I see Mr. Sharlock, I hope I pronounced that properly, is here. Do you have anything you would like to add to your application?
Thanks for your time. There's nothing beyond what's in the application and in the report I've received that covers everything. Thank you.
All right. Members of committee, does anyone have any questions of the applicant? No, seeing none. I know that this is a further amendment or further variance to an application that was before us just not very long ago. I'd ask then for a motion to approve the recommendation. Moved by Chuck and seconded by Dave. Any further comments or questions from committee? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? That is carried. So be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment Township hereby approves minor variance 21A23 pertaining to lands located at 1 Buckingham Boulevard in Clearview. There is an appeal period, as you're aware, and 20 days, and then you can move forward with your project should there be no appeals. Thank you, and good luck with your build.
Yeah, thanks very much. Much appreciated.
Our second application this evening is a consent file, an application to create a residential lot, file number 22B01, property located at 23 Nelson Street in Creemore. Again, I'll ask the secretary to read the notice the correspondence, of which I know there's a fair bit. I'm not sure how we want to handle that. It's been circulated to us. Whether you just want to summarize and the recommendation, please.
Thank you, Sean. The subject application concerns lands municipally known as 23 Nelson Street, Creemore, and legally described as Plan 315, Lot 8. The purpose and effect of the application is to sever one residential lot from the subject lands. Proposed severed lot, 15 meters of frontage, overall 763.20 square meters vacant land. Retained lot, 25.34 meters of frontage, overall 1,289 square meters with dwelling and detached garage. We've received a comment from Hydro One having no concern or objection to the application. We have received comments from Nadia Cooper and Andrew Cooper. Their comments were fairly similar, both residing at the same address. So I think I'll just read through the first one that we received to begin with. Good morning, my name is Andrew Cooper. I'm a resident here in Creemore. I reside at 219 Library Street, a house my wife and I purchased back in 2016. I'm writing this letter with concern over the proposed severing of the lot at 23 Nelson Street, project number 2022-001-22 B01. This property runs directly along the back of our property. This proposed plan would have 1/3 of the lot at 23 Nelson Street severed and sold, which is the section by our backyard, as well as our neighbors at 221 Library Street. Myself and my other homeowners in the area would contend this matter should it be considered to proceed. Below, I have listed my concerns and comments to be submitted to the Town Council of Clearview / Committee of Adjustment. First, Creemore won us over to buy our forever home here because of the charm and character that has been maintained and cherished here. The fact that our home has more yard than house was a huge draw for us. We have a young family, and when we looked for a home, green space was #1 on our list. This is one of the many reasons we chose Creemore to raise our children. Creemore maintains the value of green space where outside is used just as much as the inside of the house. 2, the proposed severing of 23 Nelson Street is not dividing the lot equally. Instead, it is only 1/3 of the lot. Our concern is that the possible house would run almost full length of the lot, losing mature trees and yard space. This is not in line with what Creemore's neighborhoods offer, which is yard space and true small village life. 3, one of the great draws of our home offers is that we have no neighbors who look directly into our backyard. We have great privacy currently due to mature trees, hedges, and that most of our neighbors' properties' backyards back onto ours. With a house built on this small lot, we would lose our valued privacy. 4, currently the lot in question sits significantly lower than our property. If a structure was to go up on this lot, it could change the drainage in our property. Also, with a new build, creates construction disruptions for the use of our quiet backyard. It was our understanding that our current sewage system could not handle any more strain, and all new builds would be put on hold. How can this lot be sold if it does not have sewer access? 6, in our mind, the idea of severing the lot hurts everyone, including the owners of 23 Nelson Street. By doing this, they reduce the value of their property in order to cash in now while the market is high, but it also devalues our homes as well as squeeze in a house between our properties. 7, I am concerned that this kind of severing gets a precedent where new home buyers on existing owners of other large lots will turn around and chop it up. All of these beautiful large properties are what adds value and character to Creemore, and to squeeze more houses into these historic lots for money is not serving Creemore. The very nature of Creemore and its properties would be put into a downward spiral should these non-city type lots be chopped up for quick buck. We have new developments for new homes already. That is where we add to Creemore, and in turn those developments and infrastructures to our village. And then we also received comment from Ian Hogan and Alexandra Kelly, both of the same address as well. So I will read Mr. Hogan's comments, and again, their comments are all very similar. I am writing in as a permanent resident of Clearview and direct neighbor of the property considered in the consent application 23 Nelson Street. I am a licensed professional engineer and construction manager. I have lived in Creemore for nearly 18 months, and the primary reasons for choosing to start a life here was the size of the properties, the space and privacy afforded to all residents, the small town character, and an established development plan for future growth. I would like to express my concerns with the proposal to sever the lands at 23 Nelson Street. There are several stipulations in the official plan that future development should be in the character of and consistent with the existing neighborhood. To this point, I suggest that a 15-meter frontage is among the smallest frontages in Creemore and certainly on Nelson Street, and would change the character of the neighborhood, infringe on the privacy of neighboring lots, and devalue the surrounding properties. The official plan also states that the creation of new development primarily occur by plan of subdivision, to which there are several approved or in the development phase along Mary Street and to the east, which is in line with the township's orderly and long-term growth strategy. The proposed lots in those new subdivisions for single detached homes are mostly, if not all, larger than 15 meters. It appears a small severance within the established neighborhood is not in line with the orderly development strategy of the township. With respect to my own property, part of the reason for purchasing this particular land was due to the privacy it afforded in the backyard, which directly abuts the proposed severed land at 23 Nelson. Recognizing that there is no control on what the neighbor does on their property, it is unlikely they would build a new home on their property directly against our shared property line. It does become a point of concern that a new buyer will purchase the severed land, and due to the small frontage, the new home would be very close to the property, perhaps 2 stories, and look directly into my property, which is a privacy concern, as well as devaluation of my property for future buyers should I choose to ever sell. Several large mature trees would likely need to be removed along Nelson Street to allow for new services, driveway, and for the construction of a new home, reducing the aesthetic and character of the neighborhood and devaluing surrounding properties. I also have concerns that to build on the property, on the proposed lands, a significant regrading exercise would need to take place, and that water runoff and drainage would impact my property negatively and perhaps add personal costs to protect against charges to the grading and drainage for the neighboring property. It is not clear that a grading plan has been prepared as a condition of consent as required by the lot grading policy. In closing, I would like to note that I'm very much pro-development when development is considered as a benefit to all residents of the established community. The new developments east of Mary Street are encouraging and will benefit all current residents in the village of Creemore and the local economy. The township has carefully considered this type of growth in our official plan, and it does not seem as though the creation of smaller than typical frontage in the established community is in line with the official plan or a benefit to all residents in the village. That's all I have.
All right, and you have a recommendation?
Yes, I do. So from the planning department, the recommendation is that it be recommended that the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Clearview hereby approves consent 22B01 pertaining to lands at 23 Nelson Street, Creemore, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the applicant meet all the requirements, financial and otherwise, of the municipality, including payment of the fee of $150 for each certificate of consent to be issued. 2, that the applicant provides a description of the severed and the retained lands, which may be registered under the requirements of the Registry Act or Land Titles Act as applicable. 3, that the applicant pay a minimum of $6,698.23 per newly created lot to the municipality, or an amount equal to the 5% parkland contribution as required by the Planning Act as a requirement of the approval. Please note that the flat rate number is a minimum and is adjusted annually in accordance with the Statistics Canada quarterly construction price statistics based on the 12-month period ending September 30th. 4, that the solicitor provide an undertaking in writing that this condition will be fulfilled, any mortgage on the property be discharged from any lands being severed. 5, that the applicant shall remove the accessory structure described as metal shed on the survey that is located on the proposed severed parcel. And 6, that the applicant be required to bring full municipal services, i.e. sewer and sanitary water, to the frontage of the proposed residential lot, connect to said municipal services, as well as be responsible for all associated costs. All work to be coordinated with the Township of Clearview Public Works Water Sewer Foreman. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Christine. Mr. Sperendo, I hope I haven't butchered that. Do you have anything that you would like to add to your application?
Not a whole lot further, other than Rosalind actually wrote a great response back to the citizens that were concerned, and she seemed to clear up most of the issues they had. It seems like most of the comments and concerns were to do with building, which I'm not doing, and I have no intention of doing myself. I've spent the last several years ensuring that what I'm doing is compliant and within my rights as a property owner. yeah, aside from that, not really a whole lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Any members of committee have any questions or comments with respect to this proposed consent? We'll start with Dave and then move to Barry.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. My question is to Rosalind. It's a minor point, Rosalind, and I probably should have just sent you an email this afternoon. I thought that in the recommendation, one of the conditions, and if it wasn't there, it was, you know how we always put that bullet point as per section, blah, 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 the Plain Lane Act, you have 2 years to complete and so on and so forth. I was wondering on page 5 in your report, an excellent report, right at the very bottom, you mention and you address the issue of sewage allocation. And again, I thought initially when I read the report that it was up front in that earlier section. Is that last section of the paragraph on page 5? It starts with, since sewage allocation is assessed on a first come, first served basis, blah, 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 blah. Is that something we should bring forward and either make as part of a condition or throw it under maybe that bullet point, which immediately follows the conditions? I thought that was a very significant section that, like, if you don't use this, your allocation for sewage and septic, or sewage and water may leave. It's a minor point, but as I say, I thought I had read it on page 1 or page 2, and then tonight when I was reviewing it, I found out that it was much further behind. It's an excellent point, and anybody who lives in Creemore realizes that the sewage is an issue now and will be certainly in the future.
Excuse me. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, David, for the question. If I understand it as a question, I think you're concerned about the 2-year now change in allowing people to clear conditions and the fact that the allocation could be gone in 2 years, or I think I'm missing the point of your question then.
Sorry, I rambled on. I'm going to make it a lot simpler. I think that the bottom part of that paragraph on page 8 is significant, and it shouldn't be hiding as the bottom part of paragraph on page 8. So my question is, should that in future, not today, not tonight, but in the future, should that become part of the recommendation, and or if nothing else, at least perhaps another bullet point which immediately follows the recommendations? Because as I say, that is a significant piece of information that should be shared and should not be on page 5. That's all, Rosalind.
So you mean the fact that there is limited allocation?
The fact that there's limited allocation, and it could be removed and given to somebody else. That's the part that it could be reallocated.
Yes, thank you. I will definitely take that information back to our team. My understanding of how we've been dealing with sewage allocation is that it is on a first come, first served basis, that we do consider the submission of an application one of those placeholders, shall I say, in that we are obviously keeping track of how many units are being allocated. And so if I might, it's while the services haven't been paid for and haven't been installed, we have kind of allocated that number for this lot. And so, but your point is, I think the other point that needs to be made is that if this applicant decided to take 2 years to complete the condition, because that's what the Planning Act is now allowing, as opposed to the 1 year. I'm not sure how we would deal with that, because, you know, we are sort of holding on to a service that potentially could be used by someone else. But I think your point is well taken, and I will, if I may, take that back to my department, and we can certainly discuss it.
Barry.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chuck.
So in kind of a follow-up to I want to say Councillor Rao, but I got to say Member Rao. I'm so used to, I'm in so many council meetings. It's councillor. I've been all week. It's been county meetings, you know, and council meetings has been councillor. To Member Rao, I read through this file very carefully, and I made a point to go and check with planning staff yesterday. As a matter of fact, I went and talked to some members of the planning staff. Being on council, I'm very much aware of the, you know, that there's the limited amount that we have for sewage and water connections and that, and they did confirm basically what Rosalind said, that there is allocation there, and there, you know, it is allocated, so it is available. I also read through the comments that the neighbors have made, and while I appreciate their comments and understanding, it's the same old story that I say almost every time we do one of these is, you know, for us to refuse this, we would have to find something that contradicts the Planning Act, and there's nothing here that contradicts the Planning Act, and that's why it's been recommended by staff to proceed and approve it, because I never want to be in a position where we don't approve something based on, you know, neighbors not wanting something to happen, and then all of a sudden we end up in an appeal situation, and we're in front of an appeal court and saying, well, we didn't, and when they ask, well, what part of the Planning Act is that, you know, conflict against? And there isn't. So for that reason, I will support the recommendation and make the motion to move it.
Chuck.
My question is once again to further on Dave's point to Rosalind. So if this gentleman takes 2 years to clear the conditions, sells the property, and in 5 years, someone buys the property and decides to develop a house on this property, those allotments for sewage and water will still be there for the future owner, is my question.
Yeah, so thank you, Chuck. The short answer is that the allocation is definitely allotted when they pay and install the service, and that is the condition of the severance. So Christine can't give them their paperwork to convey that lot until they actually physically put in the water and sewer, and they pay for that. So the challenge is that now our Planning Act allows a couple years for the applicant to make those conditions become cleared. They can do it sooner, but there is that possibility that there's a 2-year window, right? So by all means, if those lots, if all the conditions get done in a month and the lot is conveyed, then, or whatever the conditions are paid for, or the allocations are paid for, you know, then they'll be allocated. But the other kind of wrinkle in this is that we don't generally, and in fact, our policy is we don't install services until May, the start of May. So we physically can't even kind of get clearing those conditions until May. So, but to answer your question, yes, when they are installed, they are allotted to that property.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions from committee? Nope. All right, then I believe Mr. Burton wanted to make a motion in favor of the recommendation. Is that correct? Yes. Seconded by Dan. Are there any further comments or questions? I'll ask for the vote. All in favor then? Therefore, the committee approves consent 22B01 pertaining to lands at 23 Nelson Street in Creemore, subject to the conditions as previously mentioned. There is an appeal period, and then you can begin working on satisfying the conditions of the consent. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, so we move on to our last application of the evening, which is consent file 22B02, property located at 3367 Lavender Hill Road. Christine?
Thank you. The subject application concerns lands municipally known as 3367 Lavender Hill Road. The purpose of the application is to sever a portion of lands from 3367 Lavender Hill Road to be added to the abutting lands to the east, identified as roll number 4329-010-011-07300. Proposed severed parcel has no frontage. Overall, 360,000 square meters, 89 acres of vacant land. The retained lot, approximately 300 meters of frontage on Lavender Hill Road, overall 630,000 square meters, 155.7 acres with dwelling. The effect of the application is to facilitate a lot addition, which will result in 4329-010-011-07300 having a frontage of approximately 520 meters, overall 224 acres vacant land. We did receive comments from the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority and Hydro One, having no objection or concern to the application. And we have a recommendation from the Planning Department. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Clearview hereby approves consent 22B02 pertaining to lands at 3367 Lavender Hill Road, roll number 4329-010-011-07500, and 4329-010-011-07300, and legally described as North Part Lot 5, West Part Lot 5, Parts Lot 4 and 5, Concessions 7 and 8, formerly in the Township of Nottawasaga, now in the Township of Clearview, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the applicant meet all the requirements, financial and otherwise, of the municipality, including payment of the fee of $150 for each certificate of consent or cancellation certificate to be issued. 2, that the applicant provides a description of the land, which may be registered under the requirements of the Registry Act or Land Titles Act as applicable. 3, that any mortgage on the property be discharged from any lands being severed, and that the solicitor provide an undertaking in writing that this condition will be fulfilled. 4, that the property to be severed is conveyed into the same name as the owner of the abutting land to the south, being assessed as roll number 4329-010-011-07300, and that the solicitor provide an undertaking in writing that this condition will be fulfilled, as well as merging the PIN numbers to have only one PIN number for the new parcel. And 5, that the township require the applicant solicitor to provide a cancellation certificate as described in Bill 276 to ensure that the severed and receiving parcel merge as one parcel. And that is all I have.
Thank you. I see the applicant is here. Mr. Bolter, do you have any comments or questions with respect to your application or anything to add?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. I read Ms. Workman's recommendation and we are completely content with all of the conditions as noted. Barring questions from any of you, I have nothing further.
Thank you. Members of committee, would anyone like to speak with respect to this consent application? No, everyone seems to be pretty clear then. I'd ask then for a motion either to approve or deny. Made by Chuck to approve and seconded by Dave. Any further comments or questions before I call the vote? All in favor? That is carried. So it's resolved. The Committee of Adjustment of the Township of Clearview hereby approves consent 22B02 pertaining to lands at 3367 Lavender Hill Road. Subject to the 20-day appeal period. So thank you, and that brings our applications for this evening's meeting to a close. Is there any new business from any members or Madam Secretary?
I have none.
Anybody else have any? Not for tonight. Do we have applications for March?
So I didn't receive any new applications for March. However, we plan to bring the DOP application back that had been deferred. So we will be having a meeting.
Very good. Any other comments or questions from committee? No? Well, thank you very much for your participation tonight. And I look forward to seeing you next month.
Thank you.
Ask for a motion to adjourn.